then you in.
Yeah, I am in.
All right. Good. So today's maybe like we I mentioned like we'll see the user controllers, see almost all of it because there's a lot. It might take some time. See how it works in Postman because we don't actually have an interface to send those requests. We'll see how the signed cookies and auth middleware works, and yeah, some good practices in coding. Like documenting stuff and adding comments, and then integration of node mailer, that is sending emails to the user to help them reset the password. You know how when you sign up to a new account it sends a welcome or sometimes sends like a verify your email kind of that one email. So that, and then a recent verification email. I haven't integrated this yet, so I will leave it to one of you guys to test it out. I will show you how it's done with this so you can test it out. Yeah, so all of this is being done with NodeMailer. It's an npm package, and yeah, we'll take a look at it. And finally, we have to like set an approach for articles and comments because uh, ours is a Markdown blog, right? So we will have like a two-way process. One is for like converting Markdown to HTML, and other one is for converting HTML to Markdown. So we have to see which kind of logic is the most optimal to do these both, uh, in an efficient way. All right, so we'll start with the first one, user controllers, right? So come here, see the project, and yeah, so in my source app, user controller. Okay, so use strict, so that we avoid any errors in between before actually pushing it. Okay, so it enforces good coding practice over here. Okay, so I think I explained till is username unique, but let's just start. So I'm importing the user model, uh, which I already showed in the previous one. NPM library called validator. We'll take a look at it now. The JSON Web Token package and a function and app page. Uh, this is our own custom created function, but we'll probably have to change this. This is not optimal. Uh, and then yeah, the our application secret, so expire duration and then reset password secret. And finally, from the node mailer itself, send welcome and verify email and send forgot password email. We'll take a look at this in the as we go. Okay, so first thing is like I'll just come over here, take this link, okay, and you can check it out as well. Yeah, this was our documentation for this one, right? So initially we had a table-like approach. So we had like the access request method, route, request body, and what does the request return. While this was okay, this is just a first try. I imagine if it was a long list, you have to keep scrolling, and then in between you forgot what this does. You have to scroll top again, right? So instead of that, I just created a better format, more readable. So it's something like it will take in the type of request, the request title, and okay, uh, at which HTTP endpoint we are putting the request, description of the request, what method, does it require the user to be logged in or not, what type of data should I send with the request, and what will be the response of that request. So the default response, not exactly default, it's like a template for the response. It will contain a message, it will contain a data, which is usually an object, and a success, which is a boolean, right? So it'll either be true or false. So uh, let me just show you. So yeah, so in the user, right, we have is username unique. You can see it's a here out author API is user unique. Checks if the given user is unique or not. Which method? It's a get. Okay. Does it require me to be logged in? No. Cool. And yeah, the what should I send along with it? In the request body, there should be the username of type string, and it will return me a message, which we'll see. Data is username unique or boolean, and success boolean. In if it's if there are no errors in between, it will probably be true. But if there is some error, this will be false, and this will mostly be an empty data. But yeah, let's take a look at it. So all these, the ones which are not highlighted, have been filled. That means they have been documented. These ones have yet to be documented, but the routes are made. They have to be yet to be documented. All right. So let's just see for is username unique. Right. So it's a asynchronous function. Why? Because we need to do some database queries over here. Alright, so which takes in the request response object. It destructures the username from the request body. So I'm doing some pre-checks over there. If there is no username, give me this error. Request body should contain username. If the it should only be of type string, that is what I'm accepting in my server. So I'm sending. If it's not of type string, here you can see I'm using the strictly not equal to and the type of operator. So it should be a string and cannot be the type of that what the request was. The username uh, should be greater than 8, but yeah, I mean in this sense, if it is less than 8 or greater than 16, then I want to tell this is the allowed characters 8 to 16 only. And then yeah, if it matches all of these, then I'm doing a query from our SQLize model, right? We saw before. So I'm just doing it has a method called dot count, which checks takes in the where query, where key, and you have to specify what you exactly want to see. So what this basically means, it will return your query. Right. So its query will be like select all or count all from user details where username is equal to the username from the request. If I'm not wrong, it will be something like count all from user underscore details. Okay. User underscore details where right where username is equal to say what was specified username. So what was specified from my request will be in this part, and this is the query that is actually being sent to my database. Cool. And then yeah, so it will return me a number, right? So if it's zero, that means the username is unique. But zero in Boolean is false, right? So not of that, not zero is true in this case. But if it does exist, any number other than zero, be it negative or positive, is true in Boolean. But obviously we can't have negative count over here. So if it's even one is true. So not of true is false, right? So I'm just sending that along with the I'm just sending a response. So message, you can see username is, and I'm doing a check right over here. Is username unique and a ternary operator? If it's true, then return this. And so the whole statement will be username is available. But if it's false, obviously it'll go into the second one, and it will give username is not available. And yeah, as we saw in the documentation, data it contains the is username unique and success true. In case there is an error, it will console log it so we can see what the error is. And yeah, so status 400 meaning some error had occurred. Send the error message, empty data, and a success false. So we're just following this common way of sending response, right? So we know what we have to use in the front end. We can just do when we're in the front end when we're doing an API call to say this one, right? We know what one common thing it will return, that is success. So we can just put if success, uh, then you know show this in in wherever the user is typing it. Otherwise, if it's false, that means some error has occurred, and put up a model. Hey, some error has occurred. Please try again, something like that. All right, cool. So let's see how this actually works. I'll open up my exam control panel. All right, and I'll open the admin for SQL. Okay, it's just getting started. Not sure why this is not coming here. now it should come. Yeah. Okay, so I already had the markdown block over here. You know what? I'll drop these tables so we can see it work from first. How SQLize, creates the table for you if it does not exist. Okay, so I'll come here. Control J, npm run dev. So you can see server running at localhost 5050, and yeah, connected and synced to Markdown block. So if I come back here, refresh this, you can see the tables are here again, but this time the tables will be empty. Makes sense because nothing is there. Okay, so yeah, I'll come to Postman, and in Postman you can basically create collections. Within your collection you can have routes. So in my user, say we saw is username unique, right? So yeah, you basically create. You can come here, add request. Add request will open up this tab. In the tab, you can name your request, what type of request it is. So your get, post, put, batch. Yeah, and then to where you're putting the request to. So in my Postman, what I've done is I've set up uh, global variables. So you can see if I hover over your host, local host, port 5050. How did I do this, right? So you can come over here. You can see this I can type over here, and you can see globals, edit, and you can add it over here. As simple as that. All right. So I'll come back here, and yeah, to uh, right. So it what did the documentation mention over there? Let's just take a. This is the reason why we're doing this. Uh, I mean, given that when we start working on the front end, it will be more easier for us. So yeah, this is checked. So what is the request requirement? There should be a username in the request body of type string, right? So I'll come to Postman, and yeah. So how do you add, data to your request body? So here you can see there's a body over here. Just click on that. Click on raw, and click on JSON because that's the type of data we are sending to our backend, right? So suppose say my username over here is just empty string. If I send this, it will give right request body should contain some value. If username is not even there, it's just some random thing and it's some random value. If I send this, it will give me the same error. It will not allow me to. Like, I have to meet the specific requirements, right? So username, then we even saw it checks for the type, right? So if I to put like true, right? So username should be string, cannot be boolean. We saw how we did that over here, right? So should be string, cannot be type of username, right? And yeah, so even if it works for arrays as well, then it won't actually show arrays. Arrays are types special objects in JavaScript, so it will just show object over here. And finally, so let's just test it out. So I'll just put my name. It will give me two available because there are no users in our database. Yes, see, username is available, and then boolean, success boolean. If you saw in the other ones, success was false, right? So we have a pattern that we know is what we will get from our request, right? So it will be easy for us to code out our front end as well. So I'll just put that back. Okay, I'll send it. So is available, right? Similarly, there's one more called is email unique. Same thing. It follows the same pattern, same checks over here. But one thing additional is I mentioned the validator library, right? So this library has something called a method called is email. I don't have to do this whole thing. I can just yeah, I can just what it does is it checks does it follow the correct email pattern, like does it have the uh, at is it in it, does it have some dot something in it. So this checks it for me instead of me creating a regex and doing a dot match. I just have to use this library itself. Okay, so let's see how it works. Yeah, and then yeah, so same thing. Find the email count. The same logic applies over here as well, and the same uh, response as well. So go back to Postman. Is email unique? Yeah. So I'll just send this. Yeah, obviously it will tell me it's available because there is no user. If I remove the add over here, right? Remove the add and I'll send. Email should be a valid email, right? So yeah, because the ad is not there, right? So it checks all this for me and sends a response. Good. Uh, finally, not finally, yeah. So before proceeding, let's just go to register user. Okay. So register user similarly, it destructures the body, takes in the email, password, full name, and a username. All right. And then the similar prefix. If there is no full name, no email, no username or password, then respond with the following things. We will see. It looks a bit complicated, but we'll see how it is. It's just bunch of ternary operators. If full name is not there, then show that full name is not there. If it's there, then just give an empty string like that. Then yeah, type check. So yeah, everything should be a string in this case. And then validator, I'm using the same library. Is it an email? Uh, yeah, if it's email, yeah, then proceed. If is it a strong password that a user gave? So it checks the same validator has a strong password that looks for these requirements. Minimum length 8, one lowercase, one uppercase, one number, and one symbol. And then finally, the length of the username, right? It should be greater than 8 and less than 16. So if either of these matches true, that means it doesn't meet our requirements. And then finally, uh, right, so we are creating a new user using the sequelize model dot build method. So it takes in all those details. In our case, we had a hashed password, right? So if I come to the model, instead of just password, we are saving it as hashed password if I'm not wrong. So over here, right? So we are saving it as hashed password. So, but what I am collecting from the front end is just password. So I have to pass that in separately. Otherwise, I can directly just spread my request dot body here. So you can see request body will have all these, right? So it will accordingly take only those values and build my new user. And then I'm using a dot save method. Dot save will basically do my like insert into user details takes in the yeah just the like the full name, the column names, password for example, and yeah the values obviously in single quotes. Yeah, so this is what the dot save method does, whereas my dot build just builds an sequelize object from the same sequelize object. If I call the dot save, it then only saves it to my database. So over here it can be like authentication, and then yeah, over here just some password. Yeah, this is the actual thing that is happening when you put a dot save. Good. Yeah, so let's take a look at it. So register, and yeah, so full name, username, email, password. Right, so just simple, just my email, password because at the rate 2468 to follow that strong password thing. Suppose say I don't give a symbol, right, and I send it. Password is not strong. Good. And then but then I don't give a valid email. I send it as email. Should be a valid email, and then yeah, if the username is not big enough, send it again. Username should have minimum 8 characters and that. So yeah, all this is being checked. That's cool. Yeah, so let's just finally create our users. And yeah, so what did it respond? Account registered successfully. data. Inside my data, I have the user, which yeah return me the links, bio, uh, default image that we saw last time, how it was generated. Is the user verified? So this is like a email verification we have to do. When was the user registered? When did the user last log in? Obviously, since we just created an account, these two will be the same. And you can see it, timing is pretty much the same. And full name, username, and email. So if we go take a look at our database,
Hello, Kunal.
hey Surya, sorry, Krishna, yeah, sorry about that. Where did I
Yeah,
exactly cut off?
yeah, just now you left. You left just now, just now. We didn't miss anything.
Can you hear me, Krishna?
You left just now. We didn't miss anything.
Okay, okay. Alright, that's what it is. So basically, after the dot save, it automatically sends the query over here and saves it in my database. Right, so do you have any doubts so far?
No, no.
Good. Let's continue. Yeah. Yeah. So next is login user. So now if I come to Postman and you saw right. So this username and password I've used it to create. Sorry, username and email I've used to create an account. So if I send the same things again, here username not available. But if I just change it a bit, so it is available. So this works as well. Similarly for this one also send is not available for because I just use this to create an account. If I change, so it's available here. Again, if I put the same email, not available. Good. So what I'll do, I'll just take this user ID over here. I have methods over here called get user by ID, get user by username. This will basically just fetch the user and get them over here. We'll take a look at how it works now. Right. So get user by username first. Okay. So it takes in the username from the request body. Same pre-checks over here. Okay, then if the checks are passed, then find one. So find, it will take a condition, same thing. It will take the same condition. So yeah, this is like select. Instead of count, it's like select all from user underscore details where uh, username is equal to that username that I put here, and it will probably have like a limit is equal to one. So find one basically, it finds the first match that it gets. Yeah, so it finds the first match, and yeah, it gets that one alone. Alright, this. Alright, so if it does not, if nothing is found, this will return null, and null is false, right? So uh, not if that is true, so no such user found in that scenario, right? So and then this, what I'm doing over here, right? So user by username uh, generate sanitize user. So when I'm finding a user, I don't want to send that user's password to the front end, right? So what this method does is it. Let's just take a look at what it does. I'll come on the top. So it's a class, right? So in the class, I've added some methods, right? So get sanitize user. So this method goes for that particular instance. That means instance means what I just queried, right? So user is equal to this dot to JSON gives me a JSON object, right? And then I'm deleting the password, okay? And then I'm using a library called Moment. Moment, Moment. Firstly, what it does is it takes in a date and formats it. Basically, it converts, those, let's say like is your usual JavaScript way of putting dates to some number. What will do it will convert it to like gen and some day, okay, year, and yeah, it even gives the time 5:20 something like that. That's why I'm using this library over here. It's same for last login registered, and then what I'm doing is I showed you right this links over here Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter. These are all strings. So to, I'm just converting them into JSON. Uh, in the sense, I'm using the JSON.pass method to return them as objects. So before I send them to the front end, alright, and then just simple return that user. So yeah, so that is what this is doing under the hood. It's just a simplified way of doing things instead of me having to write it over and over again. Right? So and then yeah, just respond with the username. I say that the user was found. If there is error, you already know what we are sending. Console logging and that error template over there. Alright, so I'll come back here. That is what it's doing under the hood for this request. So user with username found gives me the user details. There is no hashed password. And take a look at this one. Registered at. It's in a readable format. January 22nd. That's today. Right? Same for login. Right? So, but if I give a username that does not exist, and no such user found. It's almost like magic over here. Cool. So same thing. It happens with user ID. So instead of searching with username, it searches user ID, right? And yeah. So let's just try logging in. What is the logic for logging in? All right. Uh, just- yeah. So this is my login user. Oh, okay. I'm destructuring the request body. We have two login methods. It can either be login with email or login with username. So at a given instant, it can be either one, right? So I have to like give a default value as to not cause any error, undefined error or something. Yeah, uh, and from the front end, we'll be sending the type of login. Is it an email login or username login? So that's why this one is email login, and I'm comparing the type with the email string, and then same pre-checks. But this one is a bit different. Okay? So if there is no email, that means this email is not there in the request body. But the type it's specified, it's a email login, so it's an and condition, right? And then within that, if there is no email, then throw this error. All right, and then uh, given if there is email, check for that, right? If check if it's a string. Similarly, check if it follows the uh, the email format itself. After that, uh, yeah, if the type is email, this will be true. But if it's username, this will obviously be false, right? And yeah, so if there is no username and this is of type, uh, you know, username, then throw error. This should be there in your request body, all right? And then if username is there, then check if it's a string and check those length conditions as well. And finally, after all the checks are done, query what query do I actually want to send. So if it's email login, then return an object which is email, which has email, else return an object which has username, and then same user dot find one with the var condition and sending in that query. If there is no user, it will return null, and then yeah, it will just throw this error. Okay. Okay. So what if it does find a user? If it does find a user, then we have a password also, right? That the user sends. Okay. I just noticed that we didn't do the password check. No issues. If there is no password, error. Yeah, let's put the same thing. Request body should contain password and it should be of type string. Okay. If type of password is not equal to state string, then to the error. In this case, it will be yeah, this same thing about so password should be a string, not be any of this type of password. Okay, save this. And yeah, so what does this method do, right? Authenticate user. So this is something we created by ourselves. Um, it's something we created by ourselves. I come to model. I'll come to this here. So it accepts a password which has an empty string by default, and it's just using under the hood. It's using bcrypt.compare. So it's a password, and I told you this method acts on the instance. So this one over here, this user that we got is the user from the database that will have all the user details. So I'm using the this.hash password. So the given password, compare it to that user's password. If it's same, then yeah, return true. Else this will return false, right? So yeah, check password, and then if false means and none of that is true, so throw new error invalid password, and then yeah, if it passes all of this, yeah, then generate auth token, right? So this is again another method that we created. I'll just go to top. Yeah, generate auth token. It is simple using the JSON web token package. It's taking using the dot sign method, converting the full user into an object, taking the JWT secret, and when it expires, we set it to a day, 1 day, I think, and it just returns that whole token. Cool. So after this is done, uh, yeah, then update the user. What am I updating, right? The user just logged in, so I'm just setting that to logged in just now, right? So date dot now. And then yeah, then generate sanitize user. We already saw what this does. It deletes the hash passwords, converts the dates into readable formats as well. And finally, response with a cookie whose name is auth token. Uh, Taken the token that we just created, that's the value, and options, right? HTTP only means only readable by us, the server. Is it a signed cookie? Yes, it is. This is where the signed cookies concepts come in. So we'll get to that, right? Max age, expire duration, and so this is 1 day. Is then a config, right? And then just response, login successful, data user, and success true. If there is any error, this is just a test. We don't need this. Message, data, false, all same format. Good. So, what are signed cookies, right? Let's just come on to use this. I'll come to my app.js. So you can see I'm getting a cookie secret from my env, and I'm just passing in it to my cookie parser. Right, so you can see it says over here secret. It takes in a secret. So what it does is, why a secret cookie, right? Because I want to know if that cookie is actually from my server or not. Right, so this secret in my env, I think, yeah, cookie secret. So this is basically like a signature telling yes, right? This is from uh, the very same server that it created the cookie at. So it's like an extra layer of protection. All right. And then, yeah, let's just finally log in. Right, so this is my login with email. If I just simply give a wrong password, invalid password there. Cool. If I put this one that doesn't user that doesn't exist, no such user exists. So all these checks have been done. I mean, we created those checks, right? Finally, everything is correct. Login successful. Sends all this, right? Main thing to notice: your last login, since you just logged in, time 5:46, and yeah, it updated you. Pretty cool, right? So, but this same format won't be in the database. If I come here, yeah, come back to user details. Yeah, you can see it's like a different format over here. It's right. So it's just converting that with the movement library. Cool. I mean, yeah. So the same thing works with login with username. All right. Uh, yeah. So these were like the open routes, the routes that you didn't need any access to. So, yeah. Any doubts so far?
No, no.
Okay. Well, uh, okay. Okay. Right now, these were all open routes, right? So can you think of some routes that you need the user to be logged in?
Mm, okay.
I mean, just you can just take an example from Instagram itself, right? So you can't change your name without being logged in, right?
Hmm.
Yeah, so those kinds of routes they need some kind of authentication, right? That yeah, this user is currently logged in, so he is allowed to change his own details, right? Right. So for that, let's take in just one example before we wrap it up. Okay.
Hmm.
So we'll just scroll down. Right. So my authenticated controllers. We'll just go with you know update bio itself, right? So yeah. So before getting to update bio, I come to my routes. Okay. So you can see it's going to my middleware, seeking the auth, and it has a function called authenticate. And in my update bio, I'm just placing it there, and then I'm using the update bio function, right? Okay, so this might be like what is actually happening here. It's a bit confusing, right? So let's just break it down. First, simple router dot patch. It's a patch request to this route, and then we what whatever you place between your final one, your final callback function, and your route. It's called your middleware. It's as literal as being in middle of your request and your response, right? So let's just take a look at what it does, right? So this is my function. It's inside my helper folder middleware auth. I'm getting the JSON web token, getting in the user model and the secrets from my config file. All right. So yeah, a middleware function, it takes in the request, response, and next. So if I have to explain it, right? So I have my response, right? So my user, right? Okay, it puts in a response. It comes to the server, right? So it comes to the server. The server re- checks if that response exists in the server, and then takes in the callback function that we specify to it, right? So that holds in this format, right? So suppose say a get request, it will have the route to which it came, right? The route to which the request came from, and the function which has the request response object that we place it as a second parameter of the get batch post, right? So it will take in the route, do some function, and then return it back to the user, right? So this is what we are doing in those open routes, register, login, get a specific user. But what if there is some details that needs to be changed in the user interface, right? So the user say he wants to change his name, so he changes his name. Once he clicks on a save button, it goes to my server, right? Again goes to my server, but this time I don't want, uh, like say, you're there, right? I don't want to save Krishna's, like, I don't want to be able to save Krishna's details. Only you can change your own details, right? So for that, in this case, since it's a changing details, it's a patch request, right? So don't strain over this much. It's just a different type of HTTP method that's used to differentiate between what type of request you're actually putting in. So yeah, it's just a request to say slash details, and it has the details in my board. Okay. So to confirm that this is the current logged in user, I'm putting in a middleware, that is my auth middleware, and then a function that has the request response that will send the final response. So yeah, so over here, and then it will respond by updating the page. That's cool. So let's see what actually happens. So this is my uh, say the server, right? So in the server you can break it down as this way. So you have your the route where the request was put. Okay, I'll just draw because you can have more than one middleware. So this is your middleware, and then finally your response. I apologize for my handwriting. Right, so user will be there, right? Input a request to change his details. So to a particular route, that route will pass in through some middlewares. Once those middlewares does some functions, how do I know when it's done, right? So suppose if this is the first, second, third. Just write this and keep it more easy. So uh, like say I want to authenticate the user, right? So I will place a middleware that will check if the user has a cookie in his browser. If the cookie is there, as I see, if the cookie is there, so how do I access request.signed cookies dot auth token? This is what I'm saving it as in the browser. If it's not there, then throw the error and then status 401 clear cookie, clear the cookie. In case sometimes the cookie is there, but it will be manipulated and stuff. So for that, I'm just clearing it and then I'm redirecting it to the home, right? And then I'm doing a we saw this jwt.verify takes in the token and the secret and a callback function, right? So I'm just checking if the user, if it's decoded correctly, then yeah, then find the user and then yeah, give uh, I'm just doing request.user is equal to user and then return next, right? So what is this doing exactly, right? So this is, let's see, right? So it's going into my jwt.verify with the cookie, right? So it's going after the route, it's going to the middleware. From there, it's checking for the cookie, checking if it's valid. If it's valid and if the user exists, how do I tell it to move to the next middleware or to the next response, right? That is where this literally the name of it says, right? Next. Okay. But yeah, next. So once all of it is verified, yeah, then proceed to doing this response, doing whatever it is allowed to do, right? Here. So return next. Once we know, huh, right, the user is logged in, right? So I'll come back to my routes. Same way. So patch request. It's a request to update the bio. It's it will go into the your middleware, authenticate middleware. Check if the user is logged in. If the user is logged in, then go to the next. As simple as go to the next one. So go this. So I'm not limited to this. I can have like a middleware 2, middleware 3, middleware 4, and so on. So only difference being, I have to make sure that each of these fall in their next, right? So once the authenticate calls next, it will go into the M2. Once M2 calls next, it will go into the M4. If I don't call in the M4, it will be in a hanging state. It will just stay there and it will not send back any response at all. All right. So let's just see how this one works. The update by. So it request.user. We just saw where it's coming from. Once I'm finding the user in the request itself, I'm just making a new new uh, property called user, and I'm passing in that user, right? I'm taking the user ID from there, bio from the request body, which I will be sending from the UI end. That's what we will be doing, right? Same checks, right? But since I told you, bio, we are storing it as a string and not as an object in our database. We will be checking for each, right? Whether the about and the headline and the about, if I'm not wrong. All right, we'll see that. Each of those should be string and not of any other type. Finally, find the user. If user is not found, error finding user, and then update bio by stringifying it because we can't save objects in MySQL database, right? So we have to convert into a string, save it, and then same response bio updated, and I'm just sending the bio back. Okay, so let's just come over here and see. I'll just show you. I'll log out. Okay, for that, let's just see how logout works also. Okay, so logout. Uh, if there is no request, obviously to log out, you have to be logged in first, right? So that request dot users will come from my auth middleware, uh, and yeah, it will just put unable to log out. If this request dot user is there, I'm just clearing the cookie, right? And this means max is 10 seconds from now, it will expire. It will get deleted from the browser. Cool. So now that that is done, I'll just send this. Okay, this is some error. Oh yeah, we didn't actually. My bad. Yeah, these middlewares don't exist. So yeah, makes sense. So it's in, yeah, logged out successfully. So if I come to my update bio, and yeah, you can see the bio is there. I'm sending in a headline and about. I'm not logged in right now. I'll just send it. What it's doing, it's just index page, right? That is what I actually want. If I'm not logged in, I wanted to go to the login page. That is what's happening in the middleware, right? So if it's not logged in, it will go into the catch block. It will clear the cookie if anyone was there and it was tampered with, and just dot redirect to slash. Audio. I mean, I can even give you an example. Right? Dot JSON. I can just do say message. Not, not and I just come back to Postman and send, yeah, message not as simple as that. Cool. But this is not our actual use case as of now. So let's log in. Let's log in with username this time. Send cool logged in. Update bio. Okay, so let's just see how it is in the database beforehand. It's just empty. Headline and bio are, and about are empty here. I'll come here, send the request. Cool. Bio updated successfully. Yeah, nice. So I'll come back here and go to user details. And yeah, it's all here. All my details have been entered in my bio. Right. So that is what I will keep. Patch success to. Any doubts about this sign cookies and the authenticate middleware?
Not yet.